Hello friends, Zachary here. You've been told that the American healthcare system is broken. It isn't. It's working exactly as designed. Delays, denials, dehumanization. For decades, it's been profits over patients. You need proof? What's the first question they ask you? What insurance do you have? That tells you everything. And it isn't just big health insurance. It's the American Medical Association, it's labor unions, it's employers, politicians from both sides, and even the IRS. Yes, the IRS. They built it this way. And now it's time we the patients rig the system in our favor. Here's the prescription. We the patients, understanding, navigating, and surviving America's healthcare nightmare. My new book by me, Zachary, a 30-year brain cancer survivor, the founder of Stupid Cancer, the host of this podcast, Out of Patients, and co-founder and CEO of We the Patients. Pick up your copy of We the Patients today wherever books are sold, or visit wethepatientsbook.com to learn more. Hello friends, Zachary here. What you're about to watch is a moment I chose to preserve. On April 28, 2026 at Merkin Concert Hall up by Lincoln Center, I returned to the stage as a concert pianist for the first time in almost 22 years. And I spent the last 6 months retraining my hands and getting my body back to a place where I could play the way I needed to play. 30 years ago, brain cancer took that away from me. And I wanted to come back and close the loop on my terms. The night marked my 30th cancerversary. It marked the launch of my new book, We the Patients. It brought patients, caregivers, advocates, clinicians, media, industry into the same room to say out loud what cancer survival actually looks like over time. The footage is uneven. We didn't have a film crew. We just captured what we could. The way it happened in real time, the audio is fantastic. But what matters most is who's in the room, what it stood for. People showed up. Stories were told without filters. There were amazing readings of the book, chapters that you need to listen to. Watch what you can. Take in what happened. The night started something really big. This is MZ Live at Merkin Hall. Enjoy.
And now, please join me welcoming to the stage, Zachary. And now, join me to welcoming to the stage Mr. Lou Greenswag.
Good evening. Welcome to MZ Live, a 30-year cancerversary, a book launch. A book launch by Matthew Zachary. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my wife of 56 years sitting here. And next to me are Matthew's children, our grandchildren. They are twins, and they will celebrate 16 years on Thursday. I would be remiss if we didn't thank those people, sponsors, supporting partners who made this possible and are making the movement in cancer advocacy possible. Codex Labs, Blueprint Medicines, Daiichi Sankyo, Pfizer, Spencer's, Blood Cancer United, Finn Partners, PM 360, supporting partners, Scientific American, Connections, Everyday Health Corps, Health Group, The Skim, blackdoctor.org, Entertainment to Effect Change, the Academy of Oncology Nurse and Patient Navigators, the producers of the Suck It Up Buttercup documentary, and last but not least, Merkin Hall and the Kaufman Center. We're walking off.
A special thank you for Matt's children, Hannah and Kobe. And now, please join me in welcoming to the stage our featured guest, Mr. Wendell Potter, healthcare whistleblower, publisher, executive editor of Healthcare Uncovered, to the stage.
Thank you. I want to start by saying something that might surprise you, coming from a man who spent the better part of 2 decades as a senior communications executive for the health insurance industry. Matthew Zachary scares me. Or more precisely, he scares the former me who developed PR plans to discredit my former industry's critics. Not because Matthew is loud, he is loud. Not because he's relentless, though he certainly is that too. He scares me because he is exactly the kind of person my former employers spent enormous resources trying to neutralize. A patient who refused to be a victim. A survivor who turned his anger into architecture. Someone who looked at a system designed to profit from his suffering and said, "Not on my watch." When Matthew asked me to write the foreword to his book, I was genuinely honored. Not because I'm not used to being asked to weigh in on healthcare. I am, but because Matthew didn't need me for credibility. He has his own in abundance. He asked me, I think, because he knew that my story and his story are 2 sides of the same coin. He spent years trying to survive the system. I spent years helping to run it. And we both ended up in the same place, convinced that it has to change. Matthew and I first met at the 2012 OMG Cancer Summit in Las Vegas, in a packed room at the Palms Casino, of all places. I had the opportunity to share my experiences as a former insurance industry executive turned whistleblower in front of a room full of adolescent and young adult cancer survivors. I gave what I thought was a pretty good speech, and then I watched the room give Matthew a standing ovation just for being Matthew, and I understood immediately that I was in the presence of someone genuinely irreplaceable. I wrote in the foreword to the book something that I want to say out loud tonight. We are gathered under the roof of a casino where tourists willingly come to gamble despite unlikely odds. In some respects, the people at that summit were also forced to gamble. In fighting cancer, they had to gamble with their lives. But perhaps an even bigger gamble was to have the audacity to ask their insurance company to cover the cost of their care. Folks, big insurance companies run the American health care casino. And just like in Vegas, the house always wins. Matthew's book is about changing those odds. Here's what I didn't know until I read Matthew's manuscript. He almost didn't have a piano career to lose to cancer. He almost didn't survive cancer. And he almost didn't rebuild the use of his hand enough to play again. 3 almost stacked on top of each other. And at every turn, he not only clawed his way back, he turned the experience into fuel. Tonight, Matthew is going to sit down again at that piano for I guess the second time now, in 22 years in public. 22 years. That's not a minor detail of this evening. This is the evening. A man who was told he might never play again. A man who spent a year retraining the muscles in his hand just to play scales is going to perform tonight at his own book launch in a concert hall in New York City. That is Matthew Zachary in a single image. We the Patients is at its core a book about reclaiming what the system tries to take from you. Your time, your money, your dignity, your ability to make decisions about your own body without a prior authorization form standing between you and your doctor. Matthew writes with a kind of rage that only can come from someone who's been through it, who has sat in the machine as a patient and as an advocate and as an organizer, and who has the receipts. Matthew also writes with something really more rare than rage: hope. Hope that is earned rather than performed. The We the Patients movement he describes in this book is not wishful thinking. It's an organizing strategy. 19 million cancer survivors, 35 million caregivers, a constituency bigger than the NRA, bigger than AARP, that has never been organized around its own healthcare rights. Matthew intends to change that. I spent nearly 2 decades helping insurance companies craft their message. Then I saw what that message was actually doing to people. In the county fairground, pretty far away from here, in Wise County, Virginia, not too far from where I grew up in Tennessee, I saw thousands of uninsured and underinsured Americans lined up in a remote area medical clinic for care that they couldn't otherwise access. Some had no insurance at all. Others had insurance that they couldn't use because their deductibles were so high that their coverage existed on paper, but not in practice. And I understood that I had been on the wrong side. Matthew has never been on the wrong side. He has been from the beginning exactly where he should be, with the patients. So folks, buy this book. Read it, give it to your doctor, give it to your senator, your insurance company's customer service representative, especially the one who just put you on hold for 45 minutes, and then stay for this concert. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Matthew Zachary.
So, thank you for being here tonight. I will admit I've got the vapors, so if I tear up, feel free to tear up. That first song that I performed, I just wrote about it on some of my platforms. It's called Simplicity. I had spent nearly 10 straight years studying to be a concert pianist, jazz pianist, Broadway performer, film composer, and not a day went by that I didn't play piano 3 to 4 to 5 hours a day since I was 11 years old. The longest span of time I ever went not playing were the 7 days in the hospital after my surgery from January 10th to January 17th in 1996. And those of you that know my story know that my left hand was compromised prior to my diagnosis. I lost the ability to arpeggiate. And basically that's just like running your fingers up and down the piano pretty quickly. So I had lost the ability to play pretty much with my left hand, so I couldn't really write anything. So I wrote in my head. And in those 7 days in the hospital, I composed a very simple song, and that song was Simplicity. And what you heard was the 30th version of Simplicity. This next song it's tough to play. When you choose to work in advocacy, any advocacy, you see some terrible things, and you meet a lot of people who aren't there the next week. But you also likely have been affected yourself in some way, shape, or form, and I am not exempt from that at all. My late brother-in-law, Carl Feldman, passed away at age 19 in 2003. My mother's father passed away from brain cancer in 1983, right, my three? Yes. My first cousin, David, died of brain cancer about 10 years ago. He was the rabbi that married my wife and I. And there's no contest of who you lose. Nothing is, they're equally terrible, differently equally terrible. But there's one person in my life who inspired me to not give a shit about sports, because she tried to really get me into sports. My brother and my dad got the sports genes. I did not. But my mother is an only child, but she had a best friend growing up named Evie Lieberman. And she was my Aunt Evie. And she loved the Mets so much that she still loved the Mets. And I remember going to Shea Stadium. By the way, it'll always be Shea Stadium, thank you. By the way, my niece's name's Shay, in case my brother's a continued hopeless Mets fan. But I wrote a song called Mets Fan for my Aunt Evie. And I realized it really is for all of us. It's for everyone we've lost. It's for everyone who's still clawing their way up that hill. Whatever advocacy means to you, and for those of us still doing it on borrowed time. So this is Mets Fan.
And now, welcome to the stage, please, Ms. Jen Singer.
Hi, everyone. I am Jen Singer. I am the collaborative writer on the book, which means, thank you, which means that I got to dive into that head and that heart of Matt's and produce what we think is a very important book for our times. We consider it a bit of a turducken. You guys know what a turducken is? It's a turkey inside of a chicken, inside of a duck, or something like that. But this book is basically a healthcare history inside of a memoir, inside of a patient guidebook. Now, my favorite part is we got our first review, which was from Publishers Weekly. And they called it a blistering expose, which means that when we do the readings tonight, you guys are all in the splash zone, so be careful. They said it mixes serious big picture analysis with plenty of snarky critique. And I like to say it's C-SPAN meets South Park. I was doing research, and at one point I realized I am watching as much C-SPAN for this as I am watching South Park. So tonight, some of Matt's dearest friends from the cancer sphere are going to come up and they're going to read from the book. And we're going to start with We the Survivors. So if we can have the 3 readers for We the Survivors, it's going to be Terry, Craig, and Shelly. I'll do a little introduction as they're coming up. Some 60 years ago, the word cancer survivor meant people who were related to people who did not, in fact, survive cancer. But advances in medicine changed that, and soon cancer survivor meant something else entirely, and we let everyone know it.
I'd study with the late, great Jerry Goldsmith. I was just 21, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. That's when the fuckery began. I started getting headaches, subtle and gradual, until midsummer when they became downright horrible. But these headaches weren't like the front of the head kind you get after too much tequila or the first spoonful of ice cream. The pain was coming from the back left part of my head, behind my ear and near my neck. I popped some Tylenol and kept on working. When I returned to school that fall, the pain got worse. My brain felt like it was in a slow-press waffle iron. I had a hard time arpeggiating, which is when you play piano notes in a progression with my dominant left hand. I assumed I hadn't practiced enough over the summer, so I doubled down and rehearsed more. But I just wasn't feeling right, so I kept going back to the campus doctor that semester. First, he diagnosed me with carpal tunnel and told me to sling my backpack over the other shoulder. The next time I went, he called it Epstein-Barr syndrome and prescribed rest. Next up, early onset multiple sclerosis, then maybe a stroke, and finally the flu. He gave me Robitussin cough syrup and told me to rest. My parents set up an appointment with my doctor at home, who recommended some tests. Can this wait until the semester ends? I asked. I've got 2 musicals to produce, plus about 6 final exams and papers to write. And my doctor replied, sure. Sure. I had screaming headaches. I'd all but lost the use of my dominant hand. I had vertigo, and I would lose my balance just walking across the room. But sure, go ahead and finish up your course load, kid. Concerned, my mom took me back to the doctor, who this time took my litany of symptoms very seriously, recommending an EEG. I was so nervous at the neurologist's visit that I puked on him. Though he found nothing else awry, he recommended an MRI. My father would write in his journal, "I felt in my heart it was a tumor." When we got home from the scan, the answering machine light was blinking, signaling we had a message we instinctively knew was not good. The doctor wanted me to come back for more tests because there was something in my brain. Essentially, I was diagnosed over an answering machine.
My name is Craig Lustig. I'm a 34-year brain cancer survivor. For the past 25 years or so, I've lived in Washington, D.C., and worked in various professional and volunteer roles in the childhood cancer community, the GI cancer community, and the brain tumor community. I consulted with my friend and colleague, Shelly, and she did confirm that, yes, I am at least partially responsible for creating the Matthew Zachary that you see before you today. And so if you want to talk to me about and question my sanity, I'll be here all night so we can... Brain tumors are rare, and I was diagnosed as a young adult at a time when there were really no resources for young adults with cancer. It was very isolating. In full disclosure, I don't really remember all the details of when Matthew and I met, but as my husband says, never let the facts get in the way of a good story. So I was probably still coming out of the fog of treatment, dealing with a lot of anger, but I found fulfillment, comfort, and solace in working with other patients and advocates, and became more and more involved and called on to do more and more things. And I would occasionally be called upon to talk to another brain tumor patient. Oh, call Craig. Let's put this person in touch with Craig because he'll talk to them and somehow make it better, for whatever that was worth. And so I was introduced to Matthew, and I thought, well, here's somebody who's got a lot of energy and really wants to be engaged. And heck, I've got too much work on my plate. So that's where we began this journey. And so now I'll read my little piece from the book. If there's one thing cancer patients can understand, it's that logic only gets you so far, and overcoming fear is a Herculean effort that I'm not sure is entirely helpful. You see it in the military terms that people use when it comes to the war on cancer. You're labeled a fighter, tossed into the thunderdome of slash, burn, poison, of surgery, radiation, and chemo to battle the enemy. But I do not believe that people who die of cancer didn't fight hard enough. They probably just got shitty odds from a terrible cancer or subpar treatments barely paid for by crappy insurance. Or maybe they got all of the above. Meanwhile, they're bombarded by cheerful sayings in their Instagram feed, offering books with titles like Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, or GIFs of a Winston Churchill quote, if you're going through hell, keep going. When you do just that, everyone praises you for your strength, when really you're just doing the shit you have to because, well, what are your choices? In the 3 decades since I had a tumor squatting on my cerebellum, I learned that when you're a cancer patient, it's the best time ever to give yourself some grace. Cancer is scary, and it's okay to feel terrified. The fear of death and mortality is very real. But if you're a pragmatist, you may understand that we're all a day away from death every day. Anyhow, maybe you're paralyzed by fear one day and sporting a "my oncologist does my hair" t-shirt the next. You're allowed the ups and the downs. Here's the hard truth. Life is not fair. Without good, there's no evil. And without evil, there's no good. There has to be bad shit, and that's terrible, especially when you're standing in it. But if everything was always rosy and happy, that wouldn't be living. That'd be an episode of Kailu.
Hi, I'm Shelly Fuld Nasso, and I have the honor of being the CEO of Cancer Nation, a patient advocacy organization that advocates for the 18 plus million cancer survivors in this country. Thank you. I'm here on behalf of my mentor, Ellen Stovall, who was our former CEO and unfortunately passed away 10 years ago from the late effects of the cancer that she had as a young adult. And she was also Matthew's mentor. So I guess that makes us like mentee siblings, maybe? But she really encouraged Matthew after his cancer experience and when he was starting stupid cancer. And I think of her every day in my work and think, what would Ellen do? Because she was an incredible trailblazer in the cancer advocacy world. I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't get any cuss words in my excerpt. You got to say fuckery, you got to say shitty. I don't think I have any, but I'm going to read it as Matthew wrote it. For the longest time, there weren't support for cancer survivors because there weren't many of them. Back 125 years ago, doctors were feared and curative treatments were few and far between. Thanks to cancer research and advances in oncology, and by the way, bedside manner, overall cancer 5-year survival rates went from 38% in the late 1960s to nearly 70% today. Some cancers, like Hodgkin's lymphoma and thyroid cancer, have 5-year survival rates in the 90th percentile. Of the estimated 26 million predicted to walk among us by 2040, I hope I'm one of them, perhaps shouting at my personal robot to bring me a bowl of ice cream and my drone footage of the last known polar bear. Meanwhile, I want to make healthcare suck less, and that includes the psychosocial part. The truth is, I lost my life, but I didn't die. I took to the couch while my friends, all in their 20s and having the time of their lives, were off to new jobs or graduate school. There was no Facebook page or Instagram photos of the stitches in my head to remind them of what I was going through, and nobody was about to drive 3 hours to Staten Island to watch me throw up. I managed to return to school against doctor's orders and graduated on time, earning a BA with honors in music and computers and a final GPA of 3.7, magna cum laude, thank you very much. But I wasn't the same Matt. I had to retrain the muscles in my hand to play the piano again. I didn't go to grad school. Instead, I got a job changing ink cartridges in computer printers and later fixing computers in an advertising agency. Plan B became Plan A. But I wasn't the only young adult cancer survivor, or the only medulloblastoma survivor, or the only survivor in New York, or the only person to ever have brain surgery. My people, like your people, are out there. It's a matter of finding them and connecting with them. Because if there's anyone who understands the brand of fear you've faced and the kind of support you need, it's someone like you. It's we, the survivors.
Thank you once more for Terry, Craig, and Shelly. And now joining us on stage once again, Jen Singer.
At one point when I was working on the book, I realized that between Matt's 30 years of survivorship and my almost 19 years, we have almost 50 years of survivorship between us. I am a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor, and I imagine if we counted up in this room the amount of survivorship, it would be amazing. So now we had the cancer survivors. We're moving on to cancer advocacy. So you had the yellow wristbands and the pink everything. We went from begging for quantity of life to demanding quality of life. Let's bring up we the advocates. We have Barb, Kenny, and Allison are going to be doing the next readings.
Hello. I am not Lindsay Beck, if you're looking in your program. My name is Barb Colora, and for the past 20 plus years, I've been a patient advocate in the infertility family building space. I had the pleasure of running the nation's largest patient advocacy organization for 18 years. And, well, wait a minute, we're here to talk about cancer. So, where do cancer and infertility and family building overlap? Well, it's with cancer patients who are of reproductive age and who need to be told to preserve their fertility. Because guess what? They want to survive and they want to be parents. Someday ask Matt about his family building journey. Matthew and I met at that intersection of family building and cancer survivorship. When a group of us, Liz Wolfe helped us, a small group of us came together and decided that it was wrong that you couldn't get health insurance for something called fertility preservation, that ability to freeze your sperm or your eggs before your cancer treatment, so that when you do survive, you can be a parent. So we have been, over these last many years, advocating across the country and in Congress to make our health insurance cover those medical procedures, because guess what? You get diagnosed with cancer, and they want to start that treatment right away. But guess what? You want to freeze your sperm or freeze your eggs before you do that, and then you find out that $10,000, $15,000 is not covered by your health insurance. So this is that intersection of where Matthew and I and our advocacy came together. My dad has always said that the secret to life could be unlocked through 3 steps. Step 1, clean up nice. Step 2, make it look good. In other words, fake it till you make it. And step 3, never look under the hood. These are the nuts and bolts that kept Stupid Cancer going from the moment I launched it. There was so much work to do, and I winged it much of the time, especially in the beginning. I was moving fast and breaking things before that was even a hot new slogan. I was a living, walking, think different Apple commercial about the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers. When I first entered the advocacy universe, the term adolescent and young adult cancer hadn't even been coined yet to represent those of us under 40 who'd had cancer. There were no young adult specific standards of care, no dedicated medical research, no peer-reviewed, published journal articles, no white papers, no poster sessions, no guidelines, no best practices, fertility rights, medication education, or specialized AYA cancer programs at hospitals. No survivorship initiatives, and few, if any, age-appropriate psychosocial support services. We were creating something from scratch. For the first 4 years, Stupid Cancer scraped by. Every dollar that came in went right back into growing the organization, and I didn't even pay myself. Granted, we had minimal expenses, but we could have moved my radio show out of that airless elevator shaft sooner with a little more cash. We never set out to cure the disease, never mind that cancer isn't a single disease. We were instead a mental health, quality of life movement for young people. I mean, I bet you've never seen the American Cancer Society organize a bar crawl. We were watchdogs calling out how much money were being lavished on old people's cancer. Vacuous ads that all looked the same, inflated management salaries and real estate. We were doing our own thing, and we were doing it in a 1,650 square feet in Lower Manhattan. Did we want research and prevention? Sure. But how do you prevent leukemia when you're 22. There's no screening test, no equivalent of check your balls, save the tatas for many of the kinds of cancers that young adults get. We reality checked the usual cancer awareness and fundraising bullshit and said simply that we'd like to die less and die better. Really, though, we'd like to live longer and much, much better after cancer.
Good evening. My name's Allison Silberman, and I am the CEO of Stupid Cancer. I had the distinct pleasure of taking the reins from Matthew when he stepped down about 7 years ago. He started the organization almost 20 years ago now, coincidentally the same year I lost my brother to Ewing sarcoma. But when I hit the so-called re-entry stage after treatments ended, I found that survivorship programs for young adults were few and far between. The oncology landscape was analog and isolating, and only a handful of upstart AYA rapscallions were talking about our unique needs, our challenges, and our voices. Yet I was born not just with a brain tumor, but with the inherent disdain for authority. When authority was suddenly in charge of whether or not I'd live and how it all affected me psychosocially, I was pissed off enough to do something about it. I related to Don Music, the piano-playing Muppet who would bang his head on the keys in frustration when things didn't go his way. Don was canceled from the show in the 90s after parents reportedly complained that their kids were imitating his self-inflicted headbanging. But I always had a soft spot in my heart for him. I understood how he felt, and never more so than when I got cancer. Please understand that I am grateful for the access to the best treatments of the times, and I know I'm privileged in many ways. But I came out of the entire cancer ordeal angry at how I was treated, like a piece of biology, not a person. There were plenty of other people who felt the same way, and I2I let us bang our heads on our keyboard, so to speak. Until then, nearly every cancer organization had been built by academics, social scientists, health economists, researchers, and oncology professionals, with some celebrities mixed in. What was missing was the righteous anger that only comes from the people who endured it all.
Good evening. My name is Kenny Kane. I am honorary co-founder of Stupid Cancer. First, I want to say happy birthday to the Beeblets, Gobi and Hannah. There's a lot of people in the room who are very proud of you and the young adults you're becoming. I met Matt in the fall of 2009. I was a fifth-year super senior at Farmingdale on Long Island, and I was sitting in a grant writing class, and the woman who came in to speak was talking about the I'm Too Young for This Cancer Foundation, and we all kind of perked up because we all had to do an internship. And my dad had testicular cancer in 2005, so 4 years later I'm sitting in this classroom. And I just remember thinking, like, this is my internship, surely. So I remember getting in trouble by my teacher for emailing him during the presentation. And spring of 2010, we made it official. As often as possible, I was going into Lower Manhattan from Long Island, and right around this time, I got a phone call and said, hey, my kids are about to be born, I'm losing my shit, and I need you to come work for me full-time. So we worked together as I2I, I'm Too Young for This, and then we pivoted when people started calling us the guys from Stupid Cancer. We had the trademark, and we would push back. We'd say, no, we're the I'm Too Young for This ! Cancer Foundation. And then finally I just looked at him and I said, we have to change the name, which was kind of a big deal back then for us because we were the I2I. I2Iers, it was us. So anyway, long story short, we were two guys in a room in Tribeca very early on, but we would not be anything without a lot of the people in this room. You know who you are. You've been there and done that, and we love you for it. And it's great to be here. I'm very proud and honored to be here, and proud of my friend Matt. There's Matthew Zachary, there's MZ, and then there's this guy Matt. And I spent a lot of time with this guy on the road for 6.5 years, which felt like a lot longer than that. So I was figuring out how I could turn this into a roast on his behalf. But him and I like to say that our secrets will die with us. So without further ado. Not everyone understood what we were doing, of course. Plenty of times people would stop me on the street, point at my shirt, and ask, why is cancer stupid? I would just say, you're right, cancer is not stupid. It's a really smart disease. Then I'd walk away, because it wasn't worth explaining to people who didn't immediately get it deep in their radiated bones. But our people totally understood. It wasn't just us kids behind the movement. Our medical advisory council included some pretty big names in medicine, including Bernie Siegel, MD, author of the seminal Love, Medicine, and Miracles, and Andrew Weil, MD, not to mention my own neuro-oncologist, Dr. Allen. This helped legitimize us among the medical community, which tends to keep patients in a separate bucket. After just a few years, Fox News named I2Y one of the best health blogs, citing our goal of helping patients help themselves so they can continue to live their lives. We kept up our support by offering copies of cancer survivorship publications listed under the heading Advocacy Palooza. We shared information about cancer-specific escapes through survivor retreats on ranches and outdoor experiences in the Rockies. Most of all, we gave people the right to be angry at how healthcare treats us. We explained, it takes more than being cured to survive cancer. What does cured mean anyway? It takes resilience, creativity, audacity, and irreverence because cancer is changing. What was once simply a death sentence is slowly becoming, for many, a life sentence. Then we declared, the art of survivorship is all about how you choose to get busy living. Under it all was a thick layer of anger. We were done feeling invisible, done being treated like a footnote. To our AYA friends, we declared, welcome to the community you didn't know you needed, where it doesn't matter if you or someone you care about is bald, infertile, metastatic, radioactive, missing a boob, a nut, a vital organ, or just cray from chemobrain. There are no judgments here, just friends and peers who get it because they already got it. It was the movement for the times, but times would eventually change.
And now, please welcome back to the stage, Matthew Zachary.
Quick note about Craig. Sorry, bro. I heard just, I see. So when you don't know you're alone, and you find out there's someone out there that's like you, it can be a monumentally transformational moment. Whether you wind up needing that person or not, just knowing that you're not alone. But when you meet someone who ticks 8 boxes on the first date, Craig was not only brain cancer, young adult, bald, Jewish, from the city, went to Binghamton, was in the a cappella group I was in, but I didn't know him somehow. That's it, 7 boxes. He was gay, I was straight, almost. And he did ask me on our first meeting, I think this is in the book, how would you like to be a cancer advocate? We think this is around 2002. The legend becomes print the legend. And I said, what the fuck is a cancer advocate? Like, seriously, those were not words for historical context that went together back then. And he basically said to me, you can help the next Jew have a less terrible time. I'm in, I'm hooked. So thank you, Craig. Where's Jay? Where? Stand up. This is Uncle Jay. All right. For those of you who don't know the Uncle Jay story, just Google Uncle Jay, Matthew Zachary, it'll tell you, but this man literally saved my life. This is my dad's best friend from 1950-something in Bensonhurst at a synagogue in Brooklyn somewhere, and he is my godfather, he is my uncle, and I have no closer family than this man on my dad's side that isn't his sister, my aunt, my biological aunt. Dime store. I finished surgery, finished radiation, then they said, we want to give you chemo. And I said, well, what does that mean? And they said, well, we'll give you 50% chance for 5 years. And then Jay stepped in, by the way, world-renowned geneticist on the planet. Lucky man, lucky me, lucky dad, right? He stepped in and said, I want to know what you're going to give Matthew. And this was like getting data from a cancer center in the 1990s. And they did, and he worked his magic. And he found out that the chemotherapy would have made me permanently deaf and have neuropathy in my hands for life. That was the amount of crap they wanted to give me. And he intervened and told us that because they didn't tell us that. They didn't tell us that. They just wanted to give me the chemo and say, all right, well, you can live 50% for 5 years. When we found that out, we had to make a decision. Would I rather live 80 years with hearing loss and permanent nerve damage, or die in less than 5 years without that, but have this? Sorry. And I chose this. My family and I chose this. And because of this man, I had agency and autonomy and objective decision-making that I would not have had otherwise. Part of cancer survivorship, part of any survivorship, is knowing what your objective decisions are, and they should be disclosed to you as part of law, and they're not. So I want to just shout out to Uncle Jay again for this. This song is called Follow Through. It was the last song I wrote on my second album. By the way, I have an album. I have 2 albums. You could buy them for, I think, 11 cents on iTunes. So thank you for that. That's a separate story. Follow Through is the last song I wrote on my last album that I felt represented how I was managing to somehow stay alive and keep doing things. And I'm going to play an abbreviated version because we're running late and I'm standing between you and the bathroom. Why is that funny? All right. Someone's got to pee. All right. This is the follow through.
Hello, friends. Matthew Zachary here. You've been told that the American healthcare system is broken. It isn't. It's working exactly as designed. Delays, denials, dehumanization. For decades, it's been profits over patients. You need proof? What's the first question they ask you? What insurance do you have? That tells you everything. And it isn't just big health insurance. It's the American Medical Association. It's labor unions. It's employers, politicians from both sides, and even the IRS. Yes, the IRS. They built it this way. And now it's time we, the patients, rig the system in our favor. Here's the prescription. We, the patients, understanding, navigating, and surviving America's healthcare nightmare. My new book by me, Matthew Zachary, a 30-year brain cancer survivor, the founder of Stupid Cancer, the host of this podcast, Out of Patients, and co-founder and CEO of We the Patients. Pick up your copy of We the Patients today wherever books are sold, or visit WeThePatientsBook.com to learn more.
You having a good time? My plan is working. So I hadn't written a new song in a long time. Mets Fan was the most recent song I wrote a while ago. And I was like, I should probably write a song for tonight. So I did. This is called 30. And it represents the absolute absurdities and the beautiful life experience of being an advocate, because there are many beautiful experiences and many crippling absurdities to the life of Riley. And this song is for everyone out there who keeps still pushing boulders up hills, despite the fact that it keeps crumbling beneath our feet all the time, because if we didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. This is 30.
And now, please join me in welcoming back to the stage Miss Jen Singer.
All right, we're up to the We the Revolution part. Can I bring up the next three readers? And while you're coming up, I'm going to ask everyone for a favor. If you could all write a review on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Goodreads, it really goes a long way for helping promote the book. Amazon sees that and they go, oh, people like this book. Let's promote it some more. So the more you post, the better it is for the book, and let's get it in the hands of other people. All right. The American healthcare system isn't broken. It was built this way. It's time that we, the patients, rig it in our favor.
Hi, I'm Karen DeMauro, and I'm Vice President at Blood Cancer United, formerly the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and I oversee education and some of our support services. Back in 2007, our team was charged with creating some education focused on young adult cancer patients. We decided we were educating professionals, which was easy for us because we kind of knew where to go with that. But then we also decided there was going to be a patient component. It was a little out of the realm of what we had been doing, and we weren't quite sure where to go with it. So we started asking around to see who would be the people we should engage with. And I don't want to point any fingers, but Craig, I think you're the one that sent us to Matt. Just saying. About 6 months later, the first OMG was held, which later became CancerCon, the premier event for young adult cancer survivors, and is still going today. Matt and I continued to work together, and eventually I was on the board of Stupid Cancer. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized there was an ulterior motive. So they put me on the board because they needed someone who could be a treasurer and understood budgets and could explain that to Matt. The second part was keeping Matt out of trouble and teaching him how to play nice in the sandbox when it came to other patient advocacy groups, the medical community, and pharma. A work still in progress. To determine what's next for cancer advocacy, we need to look at Detroit 6 decades ago. That's when President Lyndon Johnson signed into law the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act in 1966. Back when seatbelts were considered a luxury item, like heated seats or Corinthian leather upholstery. In those days, U.S. automakers were largely unregulated, and car safety was an afterthought. But then Ralph Nader pulled up, the consumer advocate's best-selling takedown of the auto industry, Unsafe at Any Speed, led to the first significant car safety legislation in America. This was the OG Nader, taking on the Chevrolet Corvair and therefore Detroit giant General Motors, calling their hot new sports car a one-car accident for its tendency to roll over. Before Nader, the industry's million-car accidents with 40,000 fatalities, 110,000 permanent disabilities, and 1.5 million injuries in the U.S. per year were largely chalked up to driver error and bad roads. But the Corvair's short rollover history made it the perfect poster car for the lack of focus on safety in the automobile industry at the time. Nader said it was stylistic pornography over engineering integrity, and by 1969, the Corvair was discontinued. What does this have to do with healthcare? It illustrates how consumer protection advocacy works. Look at it as if it were a cake. The recipe would go like this. 1 cup of statistics on harm or potential harm to consumers. 1 cup of relentless advocacy, preferably by a high-profile celebrity or expert. 1 cup of publicity, book, media coverage, social media exposure. 1/2 cup of consumer storytelling. This bad thing happened to me because of this product. 1 cup of congressional support, bill sponsorship and votes. 1/4 cup of measurable support from a major nonprofit or not-for-profit national member association. Funding, bill drafting, or amicus briefs, publicity, membership support. 1/4 cup health economic cost benefit, and 1 teaspoon of carefully directed shame. It's a for-profit market with shareholders and quarterly reports, and we are their consumers. Consumers in a mall that we never wanted to shop in because no one plans to get sick, but consumers nevertheless. And like all consumers, we need protections from an industry designed to make profits.
So I'm Phil. I've known Matt since we are maybe 6 years old. Yeah, not here in quite a professional capacity as everybody else. So from, the nudgy kid in Hebrew school to a high school confidant to a college roommate to one of the longest running friends I've ever had. In addition to the great person that everybody here is describing, you also won't find a more loyal, honest, and caring friend. Stupid Cancer was a director of resources, fully 1.0 when I launched it, and it needed to be. But I funded it differently than the usual nonprofit. I secured commercial dollars as a nonprofit to produce content on my internet radio show that was evergreen, non-branded, and unscripted. And I got lucky, because this new internet thing was coming along. And so I was able to start creating revenue to at least get my nonprofit off the ground, pay an intern, build the website, and do all the little things a startup needs to do. It made sense for the times, as it did for all cancer advocacy nonprofits. Give us money so we can help people with cancer. A lot of good has come of it through many cancer advocacy nonprofits of varying sizes, including money for research, legal resources, education, and support, not to mention cool t-shirts and a sense of community. But there's no real forecasting in nonprofit patient advocacy, not as it stands today. They're just waiting for more people to get sick and need their services. They're mechanically driven, not marketing engines for populist movements to effect change through consumer protections. They're not set up to prevent buffoonery in healthcare, only to mitigate it. If it sounds like I'm queuing up an argument for treating advocacy like a business, there are downfalls there too. Private equity might be brilliant at spotting shiny opportunities like novel therapies, diagnostics, and AI wizardry, but they so often fail to ask the patients they're designed to help, does this work for you? They invest millions in the next big thing only to watch it stumble because they forgot the advocacy part. Cancer advocacy matters, but how it's delivered needs to change. In this post-CDC bloodbath era, we must move to the 2.0 phase, beyond the knee-jerk, cancer nearly killed me reactionary bereavement stage. We must instead be proactive, where we forecast instead of react, because the rules of the game have changed. To borrow a line from Wayne Gretzky, it's time for us to skate to where the puck is going.
Hello, my name is Tamika Felder, and I am a cancer survivor. 25 years ago, when I was 25 years old this month, I heard those words, "You have cancer." And I am a survivor who has an organization, Survivor, CERVIVOR. And, you know, there's a story that if you want to learn about, you'll have to find me later. But just let me say, Matt and I almost became frenemies. But he's one of the few people who can get me to come from Maryland on a school night and be out this late. So, without further ado, I've been fighting for patients' rights, trying to help people not just survive cancer, but also to survive the system that comes with it. But I can't be at chemo with everyone, and frankly, you wouldn't want me to be, because I'd play clips from Knight Rider the whole time. What if instead there was a movement of patients, survivors, and the people who love them to help prevent asininity in the first place? What if there was a way to protect patients, reduce waste in the industry, and save money for everybody? Now there is. We the patients. I created it with a whole bunch of badasses. Our mission is simple. Together, 19 million cancer patients and survivors, plus 35 million caregivers, would equal the largest healthcare constituency in the country. A unified group of like-minded voters with the same goal: making cancer and the system that develops, delivers, and funds treatments suck less. The country has never had a single-issue populist organizing strategy for healthcare rights, allowing us to rally around cost-saving protections that preserve profits while helping cancer patients. With a movement that big, political candidates will have to answer to us. Corporations will have to answer to us. Wall Street will have to answer to us. Patients vote, survivors vote, caregivers vote, and we're tired of being bullied. We're tired of playing defense. We're fed up with lacking the power to make decisions that affect whether or not we live and how we live when we survive. We refuse to accept that our health insurance is what determines whether we live or die. And we're sick and tired of being sick and tired because of the system. We the patients turns outrage into action, stories into policy, and voters into a bloc powerful enough to change the healthcare system. We invite every cancer patient and the people who love them to join us. The real revolution happens when patients are in charge of their own outcomes. Together, we are stronger, and you know it.
And thanks again for Karen, Phil, and Tamika. Thank you once more. And if we can have to the stage our featured speaker, Ms. Maimah Karmo.
Wow, this is for Matt. This is so incredible. I'm Maimah Karmo. I am today, this month, I can't even talk, I'm so nervous since I get it. This is my 20th year of being alive after hearing the words, "You have breast cancer." I didn't know I would be getting emotional, but I am. Like Matt, when you hear the words, "You have cancer," your entire life changes. Being a black woman, I was dismissed like Matt was, and I was denied, and I didn't get diagnosed for almost a year. Then found out I had triple-negative breast cancer, which had no targeted treatment for cancer at all. And they told me I had 5 years to live. My daughter, Noelle, who's right there, I always embarrass her on purpose, was 3, like Matt embarrasses Kobe and Hannah. And I didn't know what to do. Like Matt, I thought, if I'm going to die, how can I make a difference for those who are coming after me? And began my nonprofit called Tiger Lily Foundation. Liz! And I was this shy, scared young woman. And somehow I ended up with Matt and Tamika and Johnny Emmerman at this Lance Armstrong Foundation meeting. And I'm like, oh my God, there are others like me. But they were doing really weird things. Johnny's like, I have missing testicle. I'm like, I didn't want to know all that now. And Matt's like, I have brain damage. I'm like, yeah, I think you do. And Tamika's like, I have all this stuff missing down there. Like, well, I'm like, I don't want to hear all this stuff. Like, I have breast cancer. Leave me alone. I have one tit. Like, leave me alone. But I thought, oh my God, they're all just like me. And we were just some crazy kids who realized that giving back is the price you pay for living. We had no agenda. We had no blueprint. We had no money. We weren't seen as significant. We just realized that if we didn't do something, others would die. And meeting Matt, who was my opposite, I was like, this guy is nuts. But we become best friends. One of my best friends he is, and he is extraordinary, as many of you, all of you know. People like Matt who are great don't always know that they are great. They're often loud, you think, disruptive, not agreeable, a pain in the ass, and sometimes unbearable. But when you lean in, they're not trying to be difficult. They're choosing comfort over courage, or courage, rather, over comfort. They're doing what everyone else is scared to do. And that is where greatness lives. This is Matthew Zachary. After getting cancer at 21 years old, he was a baby. Time dissolves, BS disappears, because the cost of silence is too high. Matt began to ask questions most people are too afraid to ask. How do I stop this fuckery? And he said it loud, again and again. And like you all know, Matt was kind of terrifying. He challenged narratives, changed norms. He wouldn't accept patients being failed again and again. And let's be honest, Matt didn't get applause at first. He got resistance. He got labels. He was too much, too loud, too disruptive. But history has a pattern. Those we call too much today are the ones we call great tomorrow. Because greatness says we can do better when the room says it's okay the way it is. Because lives are on the line and patience deserves more, and we are the answer. Matt didn't care to be liked. He did not aim to fit in. And that takes a lot of courage. Whatever you think Matt was or is, that takes courage and conviction. He put others before himself to change lives. It takes standing alone until there are others brave enough to stand with you. Matt told the truth that no one wanted to hear, but that truth saved millions and millions of lives and spawned many, many of cancer organizations that now exist that we take as ordinary. My friend, my dear Matt, thanks for being you, for being too loud, too different, too inconvenient, and too extraordinary. You are a catalyst. You are undeniably great. You are one in a lifetime, and you are one of my best friends, and I love you. Thank you.
And thank you once more to Ms. Maimah Karmo. And now if I can have to the stage Mr. Wendell Potter and Mr. Matthew Zachary for a brief but riveting interview.
So prepare for the shortest interview ever. But if there's any media in the room, let's make this happen. I've been waiting for this since 2012.
Here we are.
Yes. All right, one real question. I mean, lots of real questions. One of the things that inspired me as a child was Mr. Rogers. And why is that funny? No, that's awesome. First of all, for knowing Mr. Rogers, where are all the boomers and Gen Xers in the house? One of his episodes was asking children about anger. And he asked them, what do you do with the mad that you feel? And I just took anger, added a little dose of humor, and built a community that I wished I had had. And to this day, it's still thriving, and I'm very proud of that footprint. You didn't know you could be mad until you became mad. Can you help me understand where you took your mad and what we can do with our mad today?
And that's a very, very good question, and I love Mr. Rogers being a Pennsylvanian, and he was on the other side of the state. But I think when you're mad, maybe you've had devastating news, terrifying news. You've got a choice of deciding, well, I'm defeated, I can't go forward, or you find some righteous indignation and decide to fight and decide to do something about it. And I think a lot of people don't do the latter because of fear, because it's just terrifying. You don't think you've got agency. You use the word agency, but you do. And I think that's very important for people to understand, that you cannot just think that you're defeated, but because the odds are against you, because you've gotten a prior authorization denial or something like that, because you've gotten a dread cancer diagnosis or someone near to you has died. It seems debilitating. Where do you find the energy? Where do you find it within yourself to put one foot in front of the other? That's where it starts. You just have to do that and be determined to do it.
There's a line from, I think it's Rocky 3 or Rocky 4, where he says there's 3 of them, and he says hit the one in the middle. And I feel like you're always dodging this avalanche, attempting to either thwart you or get in the way of your intentions, or just try to convince you you're not doing the right thing or you shouldn't do it at all, to your point. But you kept going and writing books, and you have this extraordinary Substack platform right now. Going back to the question, I know what I think people can do with the mad that they feel today. It's in the book. We're launching a movement. There's a massive shift in the way the population is understanding healthcare as harmful and malevolent and just unjust and malfeasant to a point where it's almost intentionally excited to tell you no. Where do you want people to take what you're writing that they can get mad at? Everything you write, I get even more pissed about, but I'm choosing to push that not down, but out. What do you hope people are getting when they read your work?
I write because I think that I have an obligation to do that. I worked inside the insurance industry for 20 years. I left it because I was given opportunity to see how the industry really works. And I left out of a crisis of conscience. And it took me a while to realize that I had an obligation to use what I had learned to try to help other people and to speak out about what I had learned in that career. I just want to thank you, honestly, for having me here, because I have been blessed. I've had platforms. I've been able to write books, and I do have a newsletter that I publish, and I have an advocacy group that I lead, and I think we do important work. But the thing that's always been in the back of my mind is, how do you channel this outrage that is just below the surface? And it's because a lot of people just don't think they have agency, don't think they have power or a voice. A little over a year ago, a health insurance company executive was gunned down in Manhattan. And it was a horrible thing. But what I think took the media by surprise was the fact that so many people went to social media to tell their own stories about how they have been harmed by health insurance companies. And I saw it up close. And I just do the work I do because I think it's important for people to have a better understanding of just how they do business, how it really works and works against us, and why it should not be. But the thing that I've always thought since that was, how do you channel this outrage, this anger that's right there? And I think you've got it. You've got something going here, Matt, that is really important. I spend a lot of time, as you know, working in Washington and state capitals with advocates who are trying to do good work. But they get caught up so often, and I do too, with the politics of advocacy. Of just trying to figure out how do you fit into what is the power structure in Washington or Albany. But you're building something, I think, that will make a difference. Real people who've been harmed, who've been sick, who are really trying to survive, who are surviving, or have lost someone. There are millions. And I know from the research and the writing I've done that so many people who have insurance, but they get a cancer diagnosis, are not given coverage for the care that they need. Often, if they get it, they wind up with thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket expenses. As you know, so many people who are cancer survivors wind up in bankruptcy, even with insurance. It's just not the way the world should be.
And as much as I hate to close our conversation because we're pressed for time, we're going to do this a lot more. But I would encourage you, if you haven't heard of Wendell, please research this man. He's critical in our narrative. But a final thought on what you even published today about Tennessee. He publishes information that it's possible to fight back. There are major narratives happening in our country that are unprecedented, and we are starting to win against the insurers. But it takes us as a civic power, as a voter bloc, to have enough unity in what we stand for as voters and an electorate, and that is an unprecedented next step in what we will demand of our government and of our economy and of our private sector industry. So thank you, Wendell. Thank you.
And now we'll have our final performance by Mr. Matthew Zachary.
A couple of people to thank, obviously, again, a round for our sponsors and our media partners. Our friends here at the Kaufman Center, Merkin Hall. This place is amazing. Our vendors, City Winery, Diageo, Paris Baguette, and Sonny's Florists. How about a hand for Stupid Cancer? And a special shout out to the American Brain Tumor Association and all the organizations who left us goodies in your giveaway bags that you'll all be receiving on the way out. Our event photographer, Brooke Alexander. And don't clock, I'm going to run through a list. So, Wendell Potter, Craig Lustig, Shelly Fuld Nasso, Barb Kalura, Allison Silverman, Candy Kane, Maimah Karmo, Karen DeMiro, Tamika Felder, Dr. Philip Eisenberg, Fakisha and her whole team, Lauren Rotolo, Alyssa Elizabeth Drew, and our committee workers. Okay, does that. My wife, my children, mom, dad, Hinda, Jerry, my in-laws, and another round for Dr. J. Tishfield, who saved my life. And to all the advocates, again, who just keep pushing the boulder uphill because we have to. And last but not least, an absolutely ultimate huge round of applause for my ghostwriter, collaborative partner, and dear friend on the planet, Jen Singer. Stand up, Jen. Where's Jen? Where's Jen? Oh. Okay, this last song is really special. It's the first song that I composed in the 90s that had nothing to do with cancer. And it was ironic. I wrote it, and that was about something nice. I was inspired by something. The muse was upon me, and I was like, this came out of me. And my girlfriend at the time and I were like, was that because? No, that was just, we were on a nice drive. Okay. And I always like to close out my show with the song because it really does represent optimism and rebirth and centering yourself, and that if I have any one thing to say besides my dad's takeaway, which is clean up nice, make it look good, don't look under the hood, it's we are all enough. We are all enough.
one more hand for the amazing Mr. Matthew Zachary.